Welcome to Moon Monkey. On this episode, I'll be talking about Table 19, directed by Jeffrey Blitz. So Table 19 is an odd film. It kind of styles itself as a romantic comedy, and that's what I went in expecting. A kind of, people getting up to hijinks at a wedding or laughing at the social awkwardness or the cringeworthiness of a wedding. And there's some stuff like that in there, but yeah, there was a lot of just tedium in here and depressing sequences, and I guess it was intentional. Well, it was obviously intentional, but I just found it so hard to sit through this. You're just fidgeting and just couldn't wait to get away. Basically just like a real wedding in a lot of ways. The plot of the movie, we start with Anna Kendrick as Eloise, and the first scene of the movie actually kind of gripped me right from the beginning, because she has this invitation to the wedding, and it's probably a situation a lot of us have been in. Nobody wants to go, nobody wants to attend a wedding, but you kind of have to. And she's sat there, and should she tick go, should she tick not go, and she starts crying, and you kind of think, okay, this is kind of interesting, what's going on here. So anyway, she just decides to go to the wedding. It turns out she was recently dumped by the brother of the bride being her best friend. She was the maid of honor, but she's now been replaced by the brother's new girlfriend. So she ends up sitting at table 19, the table 19 of the title, with a lot of other people who, they didn't really want at the wedding, but they kind of ended up inviting anyway. So you got Craig Robinson and Lisa Kudrow, who play a kind of crotchety old married couple who are not really getting on. They're that kind of couple that have been married so long that they, argue a lot, and their relationship's soured somewhat. You've got Stephen Merchant playing one of the cousins named Walter. You've got this old lady, Jo, who was the nanny of the bride, and a young guy called Renzo, who's kind of the unlucky in love, trying to find his first romance there. And he has this weird relationship with his mother, who's constantly calling him on the phone, asking him how it's going on. So the setup itself is not bad. I can see where they were going with it, and how there could have been some comedy gleaned out of this situation. People there who don't want to be there, and it's really awkward, and they're trying to make conversation. And there's a couple of good lines there at the beginning, and it seems like, okay, this is gonna be pretty good. But it's the execution. It just failed in the execution of the idea, I felt. So each of the people at the table has some kind of problem. You've got the married couple whose marriage is kind of waning. There's not that spark there anymore. You've got obviously the young guy who's looking for a kind of a partner or another singleton, and he's like kind of struggling. So the kind of socially awkward young man is a great source of comedy. You see that in a lot of films. You've got Stephen Merchant's Walter. I actually found hilarious early on in the film. I'm going to get into spoilers here, and I'll just go through the plot of the film and explain what happens. So you won't have to go out and see this thing. I found his character really funny at the start. We see him in a room, and there's he's living in a sort of dorm room in a bunk bed, and we see a kind of fat naked man climb up the steps to the bunk above him. So he's obviously in some kind of prison situation, or not out in society, let's say. So when he's at the wedding, his first conversations are really awkward, because people are asking what he does, and he's kind of awkwardly saying, yeah, I'm a businessman, even though he isn't. And I found it amusing because they didn't explain what it was that he was in jail for. Later on in the film, spoiler alert, they do explain that he stole money from the bride's father, stole $100,000, which, it's like, okay, it's a crime, it makes sense, but somehow it's not as funny when you tell people what it was. It's funnier just to have people think, yeah, I wonder why he's in jail. It could be something really serious, could be something unserious, but it's like the Schrodinger's cat, it's funnier when you don't know. Basically, this kind of film would really rise and fall, I feel, on the jokes and on the situations, and it just doesn't do anything special, and the jokes, yeah, some of them just really fall flat and don't work. You've got kind of drunken relatives doing karaoke, which is something that's just been done to death. Other things like the socially awkward young guy when he goes up to a young woman, asks her to dance, but in a really awkward way, and just says something really inappropriate to her. Again, it's like, oh, we've just seen that so many times. And then really like the second half of the film is, well, not even the second half of the film. It started falling apart early on because they set up a lot of situations that are just downright sad. I mean, I don't know if this was meant to be more a drama than... I guess it's meant to be one of those, comedy dramas where it's got laughter and sadness. But the laughter wasn't... The humour wasn't strong enough to sustain it. And the sad moments were... kind of just seemed really out of place, as though they were trying to get across a message here and hadn't really worked out a good way to do it. So, for example, here, you learn that the older nanny... has some form of terminal illness and doesn't have very long to live, which is just, I mean, already when you're not finding a comedy movie very funny, then to lay on the fact that somebody possibly has cancer, I mean, that's not really going to draw many laughs, is it? Yeah, you also have situations where, it's made clear to these characters that they're not welcome here, but again, not in a humorous way, but in a kind of nasty way, and you just genuinely feel bad for them. Like most films where you have geeky characters or misfits or people who, social outcasts, let's say, it is funny. It's funny because their behavior doesn't really match with the society. But here it's just like people are horrible to them, really, for very little reason. I'm going to spoil the end of the movie now, and this is where kind of the film really lost me, and later when I thought about it, it's really the whole reason why the film fell flat and failed for me. The ending of the film, basically Anna Kendrick's character manages to get back together with the brother, Teddy, played by Wyatt Russell. She has a sequence where they're leaving on a ferry and she's on the jetty. Oh, something that I completely forgot to mention here. It is revealed earlier in the movie that she's pregnant with his child, and that's why he broke up with her. Again, that's not really a source for humor, I don't suppose. Which is kind of why I'm... the film, part of it wants to be a comedy, and part of it wants to be this really serious drama, but it doesn't really hit either of those things. So anyway, she's pregnant with his child. They have this scene on the jetty where she's calling out to him saying, I want to be the one who forgives all your mistakes, and I want to be you to be the one who forgives all my mistakes, and both of us are messed up, but let's try and make it work. The typical kind of romantic comedy ending, which I just felt was really weird here in terms of the way that it was set up, and the point that they were obviously aiming to get to just seemed out of place with what they were attempting to do. So really, the reason why this kind of failed for me, and then they have the scene, kind of they come back into the wedding reception room and have a dance, and all the characters are there, and they're all kind of happy. Also, like other things, like the married couple, Elise Kudrow and Craig Robinson's characters, they're having marital difficulties. She wants to have an affair, and then it's resolved. They have sex, it's resolved, everything's all better. That's the thing, they'll set up something like a problem and just resolve it really fast, as though like, yeah, it's not really a problem. Which kind of makes you think, well, you're kind of wasting my time bringing that up if you're going to then resolve it really quickly like that. So the ending, the kind of saccharine romantic comedy ending, what really got me about that was I felt like this film could have done something really unique or interesting, which is just do a really hard-edged satire and really kind of take down the institution of marriage or weddings, because there's so much stuff that must annoy people about weddings and get really frustrating, but the film never seemed to have that bite to it that I wanted. It didn't seem to go for the jugular in a way that I wanted. It was just kind of a mild weddings, kind of boring, which taking that attitude, basically you as a viewer just find it boring. Like, oh yeah, it's really boring being here in this situation, rather than kind of write a script which is, you know, attacking the wedding, which I thought would have been interesting. And so overall, I would say, yeah, too depressing for anyone who's looking for a romantic comedy here. Like, I mean, the romantic comedy comes in like the last 10 minutes. Like, the most of it is just nothing is happening. Just kind of not pretty unfunny jokes and a lot of depressing conversations with people about what's gone wrong with their lives. And then you get like a little romantic comedy ending tagged on. So yeah, overall, I just could not recommend this movie at all. So that was my review of Table 19. Thanks for listening. Remember to like and subscribe to the Moon Monkey podcast, and we'll be back with another review for you very soon.